Glenn Rushton, fresh off the press after last night's incredible win. What an incredible night.
It was an amazing night. You know, it's one of those special moments, I think, in sport where you just go, gee, I'm so pleased I was there and experienced that, because you had to be there to just feel the energy in that stadium. It was an amazing night.
We did an interview back here on September the 2nd. It was 3 days after the loss to Zerafa. A lot of people sort of poked and questioned. We sit here 2.5 months later. It's funny how the tide can just change.
It is, yeah. You know, it's nearly actually 4 months since the 31st of August. So, you know, but a lot can happen in that period of time. So, and a lot has happened in that period of time. There's been a lot of soul searching by Jeff and deciding who he is, how he wants to be remembered. There's been a lot of analysis by me, a lot of planning. If he's going to go on, how we're going to get this done, what do we need to do. There's been a lot of negotiations taking place. There's been a lot of trash talk. You know, there's been an awful lot of things that have transpired over that period of time, but it all culminated last night in, I think, an epic moment. So, what a finish.
And when you look back on that last night, for me, I've seen Jeff fight live 7 times. That was the closest I've seen, reminding me of July 2017.
Yeah, it was.
That's what it felt like being there.
Yeah,
obviously, different arena, was closed in and that, but the mentality of Jeff, you guys obviously went back to that, did you?
Very much so. You know, it was bringing out the mongrel back in Jeff, that true warrior. And I said to him, I want you to watch the Pacquiao fight over and over, and watch the look on your face, that sheer determination, that hunger, that warrior mentality, that win at all costs, that putting your life on the line, you know, and he did that last night. I mean, the warrior really come out in Jeff last night, and you know, he just threw everything he had, physically, mentally, spiritually, at his opponent. And to his credit, Michael Zerafa did the same. So just made for an amazing fight.
Jeff fought a lot of his, and has fought a lot of his career at 147. For those who don't know, he went up to 160. Obviously, we spoke about some Grant and Mirage stuff earlier. This opponent, Michael Zerafa from Melbourne, very talented boxer, probably overlooked him. But people don't realise Jeff actually went up 2 weight classes.
Yeah, he did, you know, and when you think about all of the things that happened here, we had 96 seconds of ring time in 14 months leading into the 31st of August. That's 96 seconds in 14 months. Jeff had a new baby. He was too long out, and then with the baby, it meant he was too short back. And I did ask him that, you know, when he took the time off for the birth of his second daughter, to do something over that period, but he didn't. He just really let himself go down to a very, very low base. So we had to come back from a very low base in 8 weeks, and he just didn't put the energy and the effort in, thought he could get by. And yes, he did underestimate Michael Zerafa in that first fight. Yeah,
Can we thank Michael Zerafa for bringing that out in Glenn Rushton and Jeff Horn?
Yeah, I said to Jeff, you know, like, don't take him cheaply, don't take him, and he sort of even convinced himself he was training hard, but I knew he wasn't training as hard as he needed to. And as I said, I thank Michael Zerafa for basically, you know, reminding Jeff that if you're going to be competitive at the very top level in boxing, remember there's 2,000 odd people, professional boxers in every weight division vying for that top spot. If you want to be competitive, you've really got to put the effort in. And I said to Jeff, you can beat them all, but you've got to put the effort in. And I just didn't see it was there. And I thank Michael Zerafa for reminding Jeff of that, to letting him know that, you know, you've got to do the work at this top level. So that was a lesson he just had to have. And I'm pleased that happened at this age. So now we can go on and reinvent Jeff and come back bigger, better, stronger for the last 4 years of his career.
You're and since I've known you the last 3 years, my respect for you is through the roof. Your integrity, your knowledge, the way you are with your fighters, the mental side of Glenn Rushton. People want to question you as a boxing trainer. There's more to just skills and technical boxing, isn't there?
Oh yeah, there's a lot more, you know, there's a lot of, to be a great boxer, you've got to develop the mindset, the self-image and the belief in yourself. And as you've heard me say a few times now, if you're not strong enough to fail, you're probably too weak to succeed. meaning that to fail, to get out there, and when you give it everything, and if you fail, you know, can you handle that mentally? Do you still believe you're a good person, you're a great boxer, and you've just got to keep it working on your skills and improve your fitness and diet and all the other aspects that make you a champion? So you've got to develop a very strong self-image. And you know, Jeff, it's taken a long time. Remember when Jeff started out with me 13 years ago, he was a bullied school kid that was basically pretty shit scared of everybody, you know. So to be able to have that massive change in who he is and who he thinks he is, and he has a completely different image of who he is now than he had 13 years ago. And I'm continually evolving and developing that self-image to turn him into the champion that I believe he is.
And from the boxing, when your boxing IQ's been questioned, I felt last night after heading into that 9th round that you were probably about 5 rounds up to 3 of the 5. Zerafa was actually getting outboxed.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
that's what I said. We outboxed and we outfought, and you know, I think Jeff just come out that little bit higher in every department. You know, and boxing IQ is, there's a lot more to it, and if you really have a high boxing IQ, you will think of things that the traditional guy won't quite think of. So there's other levels of boxing IQ, and I don't think Michael quite has that yet. He's thinking at it from a traditional boxing viewpoint, and he's got to remember we're in a fight. It's a fight.
In saying that with Michael Zerafa, and you know, we spoke about this today at the press conference, the one that we did. You have a lot of respect for him and his camp. What does Michael Zerafa do next?
Well, that's up to Michael. You know, he's obviously a very talented guy. He works incredibly hard. He's very, very fit. He's very quick. He's got a really good counter right hand and an excellent jab, and so he's got a lot of skills and a lot of dedication. So it's up to him now. He's got to look inward a little bit here and say, who am I? You know, how do I want to be remembered, and what can I do? Where do I go from here? So, you know, he'll do a little bit of soul searching, but as the saying goes, you learn little from victory and much from defeat. So if he looks very carefully at himself, then I think he will, you know, start to make a decision about how he wants to be remembered, and therefore what he's got to do to get to where he wants to go. I mean, he's been a professional now for over 6 years, and I did say this, you know, if you're talking boxing IQ, why haven't you won a world title yet? And you've got to query that. You know,
Can he miss it at 160 on the world stage though?
I think he is going to struggle a little bit at 160 when you look at the sheer power of a boxer like Jamal Charlo, who I've got a lot of respect for after just having been over there with Dennis Hogan to fight him. So you look at the Canelo Alvarez, how tough Canelo is. You look at the punching power of Gennady Golovkin. You look at the guys like Jacobs. You look at certainly Jamal Charlo, and you go, these boys are really, really big punchers. And that's something that I personally think Michael is probably better at light middle than middle, but then again, he could build into that middleweight body, but he's got to make a real decision there. As between, I think he's got somewhere between light middle and middle. He can possibly go either way, but that's really up to him and his team to decide where they go from there.
Getting back to Jeff, obviously fighting a lot at 147, going up to 160. A lot of media, a lot of talk. We all know now Jeff's going to fight at 154. It's funny, Jeff's actually never stepped in the ring and had a 154 fight.
No, it's funny, he hasn't done that, but you know, it's like anything, you know, to find out that sweet spot, sometimes you've got to go a bit below and a bit above, and then you go, yep, no, the sweet spot's somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
And I think that is the sweet spot. It makes Jeff focus more on his diet, because if he goes too heavy, he sort of adopts, I can eat whatever I like. So it sort of forces him to be diligent with his diet. That's important, of course. And of course, you know, his power to weight ratio, I think, is going to be about bang on there. He fought he fought all of his amateur career as a light welterweight at 64 kilos. So, you know, when you look at that, you think now he's going to be fighting, you know, at 69.85. It certainly is the right balance that we need.
I've had a few text messages from America that they saw some things this week that they've asked me about, and I don't know a lot about Michael's camp, and I'm the first one to admit it. Sam Labruno, Michael Zerafa's head coach, wasn't at the fight. People have obviously we saw on the night there was text messaging coming from the head trainer in Melbourne to the corner in the fight. Certain people have told me today that certain people in the corner were looking at phones, trying to concentrate on the fight. I've never seen it in Mexico. I've never seen it in America or in Europe. What's your take on that?
Crazy. I just think it's crazy. You know, I think boxing is too volatile. We saw in round 9 how in a split second the fight can change. You haven't got time to be punching text messages in. Absolutely ludicrous. You know, you can't be doing that at all. You've got to have somebody in the driver's seat there. You've got to have a captain driving the ship. You know, and in our case, one of our corner actually said, oh, you know, we need to throw the towel in. I said, not yet. Someone has to make that call. It's got to be done in real time. There is no time, split second. I'm watching that fight second by second, blow by blow. Fights are won and lost by the second, not by the round. It's too volatile a sport for any of that nonsense, text messaging, all of that. If you can't be in there to make the call, then I think, you know, you've just got to hand the reins over and delegate it to someone else. That's just complete to me, just completely
and
wrong.
Blake Caparella, who I think is a fantastic Australian fighter, has been put in the position this week as being a head trainer on a pretty big stage. I would probably have a look at the Zerafa camp. These guys have failed with that style. That's just my opinion. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, you're talking now about the style, meaning the text messaging sort of style, that sort of approach? Or
is Blake actually the trainer, or is Sam Labruna the trainer?
Well, I think personally what they should have done, again, this is up to their team, but what I would have said is if you can't travel to the fight, you must delegate full responsibility to Blake. No texting, no calling, just leave it in his hands. You either be there or you delegate the responsibility. You drive the ship or hand the wheel to somebody who can drive the ship. Don't try and drive the ship from afar when you've got you're just about to head into a cyclone or you've got a tidal wave rapidly approaching. It's not the way to drive the ship.
Round 9 last night, and I said that before round, after 8 rounds I had probably 5-3, 5-2. Michael started to come into the fight. Very confident fighter late in the fight, full props, very, very fit guy. I was starting to get a bit nervous, like, oh my God, is this going to end up like it did in Bendigo? And then bang. You know Jeff Moore better than anybody.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
You know when to pull the trigger.
I think that's the key here, and this is what people missed with Bendigo. If we would have stopped that clock at a certain point in round 9, when Jeff was under heavy fire, and said, okay, to 1,000 people, what's going to happen from here? Tell me the outcome from this point. You tell me how this is going to play out. Most of them would have said, oh, Jeff's going to get knocked out here, the rest are going to stop, Tszyu's going to get. That's what they would have all said. However, when we wind the clock forward, we see what really did happen. Jeff Horn comes back, knocks Zerafa down, not once, but twice. So an incredible performance. And only, I think, it was probably only I that really believed that that could still happen. And it's because I do know Jeff from his very first punch when he walked in here to now. I know what work he's done in the camp. I know who he is. I know how tough he is. I feel that I'm the person that's got all of the information, the only person to make that call. And that's why when the corner said, throw the towel, and I said, no, not yet. Because I still believe that Jeff could do that.
Similar to 2007 as well.
Absolutely, and 2 out of 3 times I've got it right. Now again, did I get it right in Bendigo? As I said, if I'd have seen Jeff's face, which I couldn't see, I'd have probably stopped Bendigo, but I didn't have that luxury. Only the referee did, so I thought at that time he was the best person to make the call.
And Glenn, last night you've actually proved us all wrong, because at a minute 47, if you had stopped it, we wouldn't have seen one of the most courageous figures in Australian boxing ever.
No.
Where did that punch come from?
Deep within, where did it come from in the Pacquiao fight? As I say, I think only Jeff and I know, and sometimes I think Jeff's not in a position to make the call. He's in the heat of battle. You need a general, you need someone that knows you very, very deeply to make that call, and I think I got it right last night. 100%. And we saw that, and we saw one of these incredible moments in Australian sport.
154, I'm going to rattle off some names here. Jared Hurd, Erickson Luton, Williams, Rosario, Calbrook, Jamel, not Jamal, Charlo. It's a very, very slim category out there in the world. Are you guys going to maybe have a look at this? There's a lot of talk around this Tszyu fight. Tszyu's ranked 6, 7, 6. Is that worth it domestically, or at the latter stages of Jeff's career, would it be worth it going over and mixing it with the big ones?
We're happy to mix it. Jeff's a big boy. He's happy to mix it with anyone. So ideally what I would like is a world title next. I loved the fight against Patrick Tszyu. Patrick fought on the undercard of the Hogan Mongoya fight. So, I've seen Patrick firsthand. That would be, if you gave me the pick of fights right now, I'd say, can we fight Patrick Tszyu for the World Junior WBO Junior Middleweight title? That would be my choice of fights. Tough fight. Patrick showed against the Dames his resilience, and he came back from what people thought would be an easy win for a Dames, and he was losing that fight, but showed incredible heart. So what a great fight that would be, and I think it'd be an amazing fight. So I dearly love that fight, but if we can't negotiate that, that's obviously he's a golden boy fighter. We've got to see if that's possible. We'll need to talk to Eric Gomez, so I'll leave that to Dean. But by all means, that would be a great fight. If we can't get that one, we've got to look at the Jarrett Herds and the Tony Harrisons and people like that, and just sort of see, see what else can be done.
Because to be honest with Jeff, Jeff and I speaking about retiring at 35 and 34 and that. You want to try and finish the latter stage of your career. But obviously, we're in the sport of boxing to make money. The biggest paydays on the biggest stages.
Yeah, absolutely. What we want is to get the balance right. Yes, you want to be paid well, but you also want the big fights. You want the belts. You want to become world champion in more than one division. 2 or 3 divisions would be fantastic. And of course, the big fights, the Vegas, the LAs, the New Yorks. The big boxing centres around the world. So. That's what we want. We want to get that balance just right.
Last night you had, for your boxing club, 3-zip. Ben Horn had his first professional win. Jeff Horn obviously had a big win. I'm going to speak about this boxer named Andrew Hunt. It's getting a lot of talk around the country right now. Very flashy, very flamboyant, very different style to a lot of boxers in your gym. The future for him is just, where is it at?
He's got this amazing future. I said to Andrew, I'll make you a world champion, I have no doubt about that. So continually trying to mould Andy into the fighter I know he can be, looking at his natural talents, his speed, he's got great awareness, good eye, he's got all the attributes there. He's 22, had 94 amateur fights, Australian champion, went to the World Championships. Just developing him now as a professional. I said last night was a great breakout fight. Fighting a guy that was ranked number 3 in the world, that had wars, and everyone will remember the war Cesar Monsod had with Michael Zerafa, an incredible fight. And they just banged there, so great boxer. And I said to Andy, you're now ready for this. You weren't a few months ago. It's taken time to evolve, but you are now ready for this breakout fight. And he showed the speed, the boxing skill, the defensive skills, the ring and gap control, all the attributes of a great boxer, and I'm incredibly excited about it. I think he's the most exciting young talent in boxing in Australia.
Yeah,
okay?
Has to be.
I just think his natural attributes, it's just, it's outstanding. And so I'm just excited about the journey that we're about to go on with him over the next couple of years.
And the shutout last night, a guy that's only had his 6th or 7th fight, you might lose 2 or 3 rounds or 2. He won 8 rounds to 0 last night.
Yeah.
Did he hurt his hand in round 2? Or?
Round 2, yeah.
What
he
actually
did.
happened there, Glenn?
Well, he just come back to me after round 2 and just said, my left hand's, really painful every time I hit, it hurts, And I said, he doesn't know that, so just keep, we've got to get through this fight. Just manage it through the fight as best you can. Obviously he's got to pull the power back a little bit on that left hand and just box your way through it, I thought he could score a shutout win if he used his skill and his speed and his boxing brain and kept short combo, long range, and just outbox Cesar. I said, don't go to war with him. That's exactly what Cesar wants. Cesar wants to go to war. Don't go to war with him. Just outbox him. He did that beautifully. So the fact that he can follow the plan and stay disciplined was a really important thing for me to see in that 8-round contest. A lot of young guys would have just thrown caution to the wind and said, no, I just want to punch, So that showed a lot of maturity, and that was what I was looking for. This shows you
we
can
had
go
some
all the way.
feedback today on our FightHype.com channel around when is Eddie coming to America. Obviously, Dennis's next fight, and we'll get to Dennis in 2 seconds, but Dennis is going to fight in America next week. Pretty much know that. Jeff, potentially. Would you take Andrew over there?
Yes, absolutely. I'd love him to accompany, whether it's Dennis or Jeff, on the next trip when we go to America, and take him with me and expose him over there fairly early in his career to that environment, just so as he sort of gets a feel for that and thinks this is where I'm headed. So that'd be a wonderful thing, is if we could get a fight for him. I'm sure America would love to see him. He's a great looking young guy, and just an exciting boxer. You know, people look at him and I think they're very impressed.
Dennis Hogan, what's the latest on Dennis Hogan? Have we heard from Dennis? Or what?
Yeah, you know, Dennis is, you know, we had a tough campaign. It was an interrupted campaign. He went out there and fought a great fight. He was very competitive against, you know, an amazing boxer in Jamal Charlo. So, you know, and I don't want to take anything away from Jamal. I rate him very highly. I think he's probably the best 160 in the world at present, not including Canelo Alvarez, because I'm not sure where Canelo's going to campaign now.
60.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but aside from Canelo, then I would rate him then the next best at the moment. So certainly I think Dennis did very well there. In the 6th round, I thought he was still very much in that fight. He was a little tentative. He copped a very serious injury in sparring against Rosario. He's fighting in January. And, you know, I think that just he was a little jaded going into that fight. Still, he was very competitive and showed he's up there. I think what we've got to do now is to get a proper campaign. As I said to him, I want to get you back early in January, lay the foundation for your comeback fight. A good comeback fight at light middle, keep him back at light middle, and then I think there's no reason why he could be looking for a title there as well in the very next fight.
Because obviously mixing with Jamal Charlo at 160 and taking those shots, 154, he could cause a lot of problems, Dennis Hogan at 154.
Yeah, we've already seen that against Mongoya, you know, where we thought we rightly won that fight, and we still had that belief. And I think at 154 he can beat any of those. He's a very, very tough guy. As I said, the campaign wasn't ideal. A few hiccups along the way with that one, hips, also the ear and so forth that happened late there, just caused him to be a little tentative. And anyone who watches Mongoya and Charlo will see that he wasn't moving as freely, not as committed to his punches. He was just concerned, and that's probably the word that you would say going into that fight. And,
is that because of the power from Charlo but at 160?
Combination of, I think, the injuries he had going into the fight, the interrupted campaign, and also the power of Jamal Charlo. So probably a blend of those 3 elements. But, you know, if we get the preparation right, lay the skills and put the skill work in early in his campaign, and then build the fitness on top of that, I know that when he comes back at 154, he'll be very destructive, and I think we're going to see the best of Dennis Hogan in his next fight.
All right, mate. Well, thank you so much, because this is the last official FightHype.com interview that we're doing with Glenn Rushton with this year. So
what a way to finish, Dave.
What a way to finish.
What a way to finish.
On behalf of everyone at FightHype.com, we really, really respect you, and we just thank you so much for your time this year.
You're very welcome, and I think we've, as you said, finished it with possibly the fight of the year, certainly the fight of the year in Australia, and certainly one of the greatest fights we've seen in the world in what's been a terrific 2019. So look forward to seeing you back in 2020, and you have a nice break.